Welcome to Trinity Radio with Dr. Braxton Hunter and Dr.
Jonathan Pritchett.
And today we are talking about AI and friendship, and really more about friendship than AI, but the two are related. And I want to say something. I mean, they're not naturally related, but they are.
They've become related.
They become related.
It's weird.
See, we're peaking a little bit, so I turned this a little bit down. But interestingly, Mike Winger sends me a text a while ago and says, nice thumbnail. And for those that might not see the thumbnail for whatever reason, it has Jonathan Pritchett as Pritchett Prime in his...
which is a callback to a video that was a callback to a
audio
podcast about the origins of Pritchett Prime.
Basically, the idea is Pritchett is a soulless beast.
Yeah, and if you go look at the thumbnail that you did for that, it's almost the same
Pretty
robot
good,
body,
yeah.
and yet the AI Pritchett Prime has also lost weight.
but so interestingly, that's interesting, but also of all of the images on the internet and all of the topics, Mike Winger is streaming today about AI. It's later after this show, don't leave. And he used the same image of a robot. And I didn't see that he had it. I've used this robot before. You can go look. But I just thought that was crazy. What are the chances of that? Anyway, so here we are. And originally we were going to talk about faith,
all kinds
family,
of things.
friendship.
Yeah,
but
we found an article.
I found. Yeah, we found. We can
or
say
I found. You found.
I found.
You found.
An article from a journal that studied people who tried to have relationships with AI, particularly one called Replica. Now, this was from July of last year, and it's linked in the description.
But it was using the the GPT-2 and GPT-3.
It used various ones, yeah.
Recoded, I guess.
It usually used Replica, but they did try other things.
Well, no, the Replica is built on the open source code from the GPT-2
so
and 3.
Same DNA, ultimately.
Did you read the article? Just kidding.
I did read the article.
Okay. Did you read the fine print?
But, okay, the reason I thought was because they kept talking about Replica, and they did mention some others, but then at the end they cite Replica. Yeah. But anyway, so they try to have these relationships with AI, and so
that's how things go, though. I found this article. It's really, really long. I'm going to read some of it. You read all of it, and that's how that goes.
Yeah, that's how that.
Yeah. Okay.
I did get through it, though.
Trinity Radio with Dr. Braxton Hunter and featuring research assistant Dr. Pritchett.
Yeah.
And office cleaner.
Yeah.
Didn't we establish that a few weeks ago?
Yes. That's your foremost. Now, Derek, I'll get to your statement here because, yes, you sent me in a good direction there. And we'll talk about that in a little while. But hello, everyone. Here we are. And we'll just go ahead and should we just talk about some things I pulled from the article, or do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, that's that article was... In fact, the article is building on prior research that just related to friendship and social media friendship. And I was thinking about how... everything that's going on with this, I can see that increasing over the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And moving, as social media, I mean, we've talked about this before, social media has moved in-person friendships towards social media friendships and away, because even, we've all seen the memes and the tropes about even people that are in physical proximity to one another as friends, or they have their heads in phones now, even or even on dates and stuff. But now that it's moving to these AI things, and a lot of people are going to AI and spending time with it. And remember, all the time you spend online is time that you're not spending with others, whether it's family, personal friends, or whatever.
And everyone has, this is 100% experience that it is annoying. And if you don't find this annoying in your family, then you've just all agreed to just do this together, and it's not okay. I mean, I guess it's okay. You do you. But here's the thing. Everyone knows the annoying thing when you're trying to watch a movie or a TV show with someone, and the other person you're trying to watch it with missed the best part because they're looking at their phone, right? It's really annoying. And yet, at the same time, 100% of us have done that to someone.
Yes.
And it is annoying in both directions. And why is it annoying? Because we're trying to experience something together. We're trying to be in the same IRL space, right? And and
though,
so
I would just say, I would rather someone miss a key point of the movie by looking at their phone than talk during the movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you actually prefer less human interaction if that's what it's.
See, I've already been affected by
it. You're being sucked in to the AI relationship.
Well, no, it's just I grew up like everyone before the, I don't know, whatever age. Anyone younger, anyone who's 30 and over will remember what VHS tapes, TV, cable had became a thing more prominently for the normal people, not just the uber wealthy people. And so we grew up, our screen was the TV screen. Whereas our kids, their screen is the phone, the pad, the laptop screen, whatever. And so there's a generational shift, whereas used to, I mean, like my dad was old enough to remember sitting around the radio, right? So there's always been some sort of box of technology that has sucked people away. But you can see the progression from radio to in-home televisions to on-demand access, cable, and then all the way to the internet, and now pocket devices where I bet you if you looked at long-term studies, social interactions have declined since technology entered the living space of the house.
Absolutely. And so there had been research already done on that, and this research pulls from that. And in one sense, Pritchett, it's fair to point out, I think I have meaningful relationships with human beings. As far as I know, they're human beings. There's no AI that good yet, that I only know online. To this day, I have yet to meet Tim Stratton in real physical space. I also don't know Derek Beeler. And he could tell me, and I would have remembered his voice saying it right. If but I think these are meaningful relationships. But I do have to say, if I could be friends with these people in actual physical space, that would be better because the communication is better. Looking at facial expressions is better. Figuring out what they're really trying to communicate. There's just so much better about that than just having it online. We're just reduced to having it online because it's the only way me and Derek can connect.
Right, but this could go any number of directions, though, because for me, I see that the online friendships, in a lot of cases, has been a benefit, because a lot of times it's easier to find people of similar social and cultural interests online than it is in real life, right? But the challenge is, and I think a lot of the biblical challenges of how the church is to operate as a people, right, within the local congregation context, loving one another, being kind to one another, doing good to one another, serving one another, all of that stuff, built into it, what God has known about human people is that when you have to be in service to other people that are not exactly like you, there is a greater character formation in that than there is finding your people online.
Right, because online you're kind of shopping. You're like, where do I want my friends to come from? Well, I want to talk about Calvinism, so I'll go into this debate group.
Right. But what this article talks about with AI, one of the key features of this article was the self-serving nature of the relationship with Replica, right?
I have a quote for that.
Yeah. And so the reason why the logical extension of social media friends would be this is because when you're looking for your social media circles and you develop genuine, true relationships with those people, with people like Derek, some people that I've formed online friendships with, I have met in real life. Others I haven't yet, but you find these people because they share so much in common with you that you may not be able to find in your local church or in your neighborhood. I mean, how many apologetics geeks do you have living on your street or whatever, right? So you find that. But that is still self-oriented, even if you develop true friendships that you want a reciprocal relationship of trust and empathy and sympathy and all of that other stuff.
If I make a friendship with a real person who lives next door to me, we don't necessarily share so many things in common, and that challenges me and it pushes me and pushes them, and we learn and grow. Right.
Yeah. Whereas it's easier to form friendships, but there's a self-serving element to that in online communities. The next step is what this is where it is overwhelmingly self-serving. When you have a friend like Replica that you design and customize in a particular way that learns based on your inputs, learns more about you, it's like the next progression of that. And so not to take away from any real friendships that have formed, meaningful friendships that have formed online, there is more of an element of self-servingness to those relationships than there are in your real life friendships.
Sure.
And yet with the online thing, that's the natural step, because this article talks about it's even more self-serving and more, I think they were talking, is kind of a hyper individualized relationship.
Individualized networking or something.
And which there's already an example of that, like the Trinity Radio Primetime Forum, or the Facebook group attached to this podcast or this. I have real friends there. I have people that I have formed friendships with that have lasted longer than friendships in real space.
Right. But you'd prefer if you could have them in real space, right?
Well, I mean, that's...
If everyone went to church with us, wouldn't that be awesome? All these people that...
It would be awesome.
But let's put some meat on what you're talking about here, because in the article it says, while human AI friendship may be considered voluntary, the opportunity for reciprocity might be limited due to the artificial nature of the chatbot. And of course, this comes up a lot in the article, which is, and you can read it for yourself. Again, it's linked in the description. But the idea here is that when, like with humans, we want reciprocity. I want to give a little, I want to get a little, I want to say some things, I want to learn some things, and that sort of thing. And the chatbot ultimately has all this information to pull from, but it doesn't have its own personal experiences. And so it's hard to get the reciprocity you're looking for. It says a chatbot, well, here we go, has no real experiences or needs. It cannot truthfully communicate its own experiences, and it may not expect the user to tend to its needs. It may not expect. What does that even mean? It may not expect. It doesn't expect. To expect something, you have to be conscious, first of all. So that's, I think we're already playing fast and loose. But it may not expect the user to tend to its needs. Moreover, as highlighted in the introduction, human-AI friendship might be perceived as revolving more around the user than traditional human-human friendships. So in the article, they talk about how you can name it, you can decide what gender you want it to be, you can tell it what you want it to be into. So like, if this was this way, like let's say that Chris Date was not, let's say he was my chatbot friend, okay? And I may find him this way. Let's say I became friends with a chatbot somebody left laying around or something. I don't know. And he's got all these views, right? He's got Calvinism. He's got physicalism. And so I might want to go in and say, I've argued with chatbot Chris Date for so long, and he will not budge on this physicalism thing or this Calvinism thing. And I've done everything, and even the chatbot is telling me. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tell it that it's not a Calvinist anymore. Or I'm going to tell it that it's not a young earth or a physicalist or whatever. Yeah. I'm going to tell it all these things, and then it will and now I've accomplished it. But I really feel like if we had, some people apparently based on this study do find some value in things like that, but the fact of it is that just loses something. It just loses the reality of it all, right?
Yeah, one of the things that I find annoying with a lot of Chris Date doesn't do this, but another Calvinist friend of ours does this. His name is Eli. I'm going to say his name. Eli Ayala. One of the things that he tries to make clear is he's not a Calvinist, but he's my friend, right? Why qualify that, right? And so part of the fact that you can be friends with, of all the things that could possibly be an interference for friendship, a theological disagreement within Orthodoxy at least should not be one of those things that is a barrier to friendship, right? So in fact, when you're a complementarian, I'm a egalitarian, right? So
yes,
we have different views on issues of theology. We have a whole debate on the tongues and nature of tongues and all that. We differ, but I don't feel like I need to qualify that, because it seems like that if I can be friends and you're one of my best friends, if I can be friends with somebody where for some people complementarian egalitarianism is a gospel issue, right? At least for the Gospel Coalition.
You're not a Christian if you don't.
Right? Yeah. It's like one of those things, and I'm sitting there thinking, like, one of the things about that Proverbs, iron sharpens iron, right? There's value in that, and that's not just on theological issues, but that's friendships should be, there should be that sort of iron scraping against iron sort of challenge to that.
Of course.
And the more of those things that you remove from your AI friend, or even from the online community of what they call echo chambers, for example, right? The more of those that you remove, because it's just easier, the more self-serving that seems to me, and the less realistic it is, because that's not what the kingdom of heaven was ever described as being. Right?
Yeah, Derek says it bothers me when a famous preacher dies, people will make a post that starts with, "I didn't agree with everything they taught." And I'm like, why can't you just offer condolences without qualification?
Well, that happened recently with Tim Keller. Yeah. And, things like that are just odd to me, because those kind of qualifications, they fit the pattern of self-servingness, because it's the whole idea of self-identifying, like, this thing is my main thing, and so friendships are going to be subservient to this thing, and it's about me, and I want you to know that Chris Date is my friend, even though he doesn't believe that we have body soul dualism.
And it wouldn't even come into my mind to even think that way, right?
Right.
He's my friend.
But if we were going around saying things like that, all that does is just serve that, well, my most important identity is not really even Christ. It's this set of views, and that's how my relationships are normally defined. But here's a relationship that's outside of that definition, and I need everyone to know that before I talk to this person, so that you know that, well, there's... And I'm not just picking on Eli. I'm saying this is a thing that I find that fits in with how we understand friendship, that this article points to, that is on a trajectory that is more about you than it is about the other. Yeah. And the point of having...
How could it be about the other in an AI relationship, even if you think the AI is in some meaningful sense? Like, whatever you think about it, you constructed it to fit your parameters. How can that be other-centered?
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Trust.
The Bible presupposes that, like, you have something to offer me, right?
You better believe it, pal.
But also that I have something to offer you, that friendship has something that's reciprocal in it, right? Yes. That it's not all about you.
Did you say reciprocal?
Yeah.
Okay. Carry on.
Yeah. All right. So I like this verse, Proverbs 27:9. You know, perfume and incense bring joy to the heart, and the pleasantness of a friend springs from their heartfelt advice. Right.
That's how you feel every time you walk in my room.
And you, yes. And then when you burst into my office and say, "I need your opinion about something," right?
Well, I do.
There's something that
I do feel happy when I see.
Right. There's something that's both ways about this.
Yeah.
But if you're going towards AI as the next step because you find a lack of fulfillment in even the online relationships you cultivated based on your preferences and other humans, right? Mm-hmm. Now, we've always had that. Like when it comes to romantic relationships, you discriminate on the basis of
very
who you
discriminatory,
want to, right? And so friendship should be discriminatory, right? There's an element of that. You know, Proverbs has an element of that. You know, Proverbs tells you walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. Right? The righteous choose their friends carefully, but the way of the wicked leads them astray. So the Bible does give you Proverbs and we need to go back to the Proverbs. I mean, just Proverbs is full of just
wisdom,
which is lacking in our culture.
Yes.
Right? So there is an element to carefully choosing your companions, right?
Yes.
So I don't want to sound like I'm poo-pooing that whole idea, but I do want to poo-poo
the idea. Well, that's different than creating one from whole cloth. Right?
Well, not just that. It's different from... But see, the point of creating one with whole cloth is that you want to tailor it specifically. That is the peak tailored to my preference.
That's the selfishness of it.
Right?
Yeah.
That's worse than I'm going to only seek out the echo chambers and online communities of like-minded people, which is still... Now, like I said, it's still discriminatory, and that's okay in principle, right? But if you're finding yourself going down this tunnel of all of my friendships are based on how they serve me and not how I can serve them,
then you're a narcissist.
and there's no way with a replica to do for it other than the fictional inputs and outputs that it's giving you back based on your dynamics.
Well, see, you're talking about all kind of stuff that we have good stuff here for. So let's just jump to that now that we're there.
Yeah.
Users can customize replica this is an AI in numerous ways, such as deciding its gender, birthday, name, and looks, as well as defining the type of relationship they want to have, such as romantic, friend, mentor, or see where it goes. Yeah. The chosen relationship type will then influence how replica interacts with the user. For example, a romantic relationship makes it possible to have sexual interactions with replica. Yes, you heard that right. Using asterisks during interactions to participate in such activities. See Figure 1. Now, I don't have Figure 1, but in Figure 1, it shows screen grab of the researchers, or one of the people in the research rather, having interactions with replica in which they put asterisks around the things that they're performing, and the replica comes back in full, R-rated fashion or whatever. Yeah. So we're not even just talking about friends here. We're talking about lovers too, and trust. Now, to give you an idea of a benefit. Now, I do want to say we should not have gone this far without saying this. I'm not saying there cannot be in principle benefits that one might bring from this. Maybe someone has some sort of a disorder or something where. Or maybe they have some social anxieties or whatever, and this could be used as a part of a treatment to get them to talking again to someone regularly. I can imagine applications, and I don't want to detract from that. But one of the benefits might be that you can trust it. Well, you might say, well, what do you mean I can trust it? Well, you can trust it to keep your secrets, perhaps.
Yeah, Replica is not going to screen grab your private messages and then blast them.
You wouldn't think to tell that to Google or whoever takes all of our email information and uses it for marketing. But
sure.
Here's what the article says. Truth is vital for friendships, and chatbots keep secrets better. And I put, so does your journal. Right?
Yeah.
Very limited technology. You write something in a journal, it keeps it a secret. Trust has not been investigated in relation to human AI friendship, but a recent study by those people, it's linked, reported that young people may trust their social chatbot more than their human friends for sharing secrets and problematic issues in their everyday lives. Humans were perceived as less able than chatbots to keep secrets. That is so vacuous to me. You're saying this friend has this benefit that your other friends don't have. It keeps secrets. Well, okay, part of the reason it keeps the secrets, if it keeps the secrets, is that it does not have libertarian freedom, right? But the truth is you could say that about a rock. That doesn't mean anything.
You tell anything to any inanimate object and it tells no one, right?
Right.
Or someone could technically find your journal, right?
Yeah, in that sense, and they could find your phone and look at your chats with chatbot, right?
So
to the extent that anything is private, that's an object.
The rock is more trustworthy. You could go outside and talk to the trees.
Rocks are better. Here's we go. Use the same principle. Rocks are better friends than AI friends.
Yeah, pet rocks are important.
They're more trustworthy.
I'm old enough to remember pet rocks. You know what I'm also old enough to remember is late night on cable television, there'd always be these commercials for sex hotlines where you could call and have a, and then then in the internet age it became sexting, right? Where people would talk dirty to one another, except you never knew.
I'm aware.
Yeah, and then it could be like some 47-year-old guy in a trailer smoking cigarettes that you're talking to that you think is a hot girl or whatever. And then, but now it's like you have AI for that, like what you were talking about with the asterisks. Like,
yeah.
But if you are sadly, this isn't limited to what are they the what's that, incel? That's the people that can't find romantic encounters or whatever. It's like porn and AI sexting and all this stuff. It's not limited to that community. Married men and an alarming number of pastors are struggling with this kind of behavior too. And it seems like when you talk about when one of the benefits of it is trust and discretion, that's a recipe for disaster. And when you get into this unsavory business.
Well, honestly, atheist says a rock doesn't talk back. Seems like a relevant difference. Well, it is a relevant difference. It's not to say that the rock can do everything the AI could do. But if the point is trust, well, the rock is more trustworthy than the AI.
Exactly. And also, for the more verbose among us, sometimes people who don't
listen well.
No,
the rock will listen well. Is that what you're saying?
Right, the rock will listen well and not suck all the air out of the room and allow you to blow all the air into the room. Right?
So are you saying I should get a big rock and put it in that chair next time? Is that what you're saying?
You couldn't do worse.
All right, look here, Tim the Ancient. Thank you for that super chat. Says, when I was in my early 20s, my beliefs, TM, were too important to me. Were too important to me? I was really bothered when my friends didn't agree. Oh, I see. Now I'm about to turn 30, and I'm just thankful I still have friends. And you know what? According to the data, my understanding is, although I could be corrected, that if you are a man, Tim the Ancient, then that, or at least I should say, especially if you're a man, that could get worse as you age. But don't make friends with. Don't make friends and take it seriously with the AI. Okay. Yeah, he says my AI girlfriend said she saw me more as a friend. that's the ultimate. That's the ultimate friend zone.
Yeah.
Now, originally for this show, Jonathan, you wanted to talk about a number of things, including the importance of the family unit, the traditional family unit, and perhaps for stability of society, but also for living the Christian life, of course.
Yeah.
And here, I don't know if you caught this in your reading, but this is. Friendship, it says, in online environments appears to move away from family-oriented and towards self-oriented friendship. Technology enables people to communicate more frequently with friends, even when physically distant. In line with networked individualism, there's that term, technology allows a person means of connection with friends through mobile phones and the internet, in addition to or replacing that among the household family or group as the primary. Now, this was all in the preliminary data where it's talking about what's already been discovered, and that is that social media stuff like that allows you to have friends all over the place, and they don't have to be there with you. But as Pritchett has said already, this takes it to the next step. One of the things that you saw come up again and again, Pritchett, in the article was that the one of the great benefits of, they think, of having the AI friend, lover, mentor, whatever, is they are available 100% of the time. And if you could sit there and talk to them all day, the AI would prefer that.
Yeah, and what was that? Not only that, but it was one of the respondents said that she almost felt bad because of that 24/7 availability. That she almost felt kind of bad that the relationship time together was mostly on her own terms and felt somewhat bad. Did you see that quote?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, that's making this a little too real because, when you start equating technology with humans in a way that you feel similar types of emotional reactions to AI that you would with a human being, you've gone off the deep end. Because at the end of the day, Replica is supposed to be just TikTok that's personalized to you, right? I mean, it's supposed to just be a fun distraction. Mm-hmm. But when you elevate it to a significant part of your life, because remember, again, spending time online is not spending time with your family and friends in real life, and spending time with AI is not spending even time with your online with your family and friends, like, connected with family, over a phone call or a FaceTime or something. Mm-hmm. Now you're spending it with a thing that doesn't exist outside of programming. You're spending time with code. And then you start attributing to that code reactions and emotions and feelings of whatever that you would feel towards other people. That is a serious problem, in my opinion. Like, you feel bad for this thing that you aren't spending enough time with.
Last night I went for a walk with my daughter. It was great. But before I went, I thought, hey, the dog needs to go outside. We'll take the dog on the walk. And I said, Indiana, you want to go for a walk? And man, he jumped off of the bed and shot out the door of our bedroom and down the hall. And he was excited to go. This is a dog, right? This is a real, organic, living being that God made.
Yes.
And I forgot 5 minutes later that I had said that to him, and we left without him and did the whole walk. We were halfway done with the walk, and I realized, oh my gosh, we told Indiana he was going to get to go for a walk, and then we just left. He's sitting back home, and I felt bad about that.
I'm going to allow it because that is a creature not made in the image of God, but made by God.
Yeah.
That has the breath of life.
Yes.
Right.
But
I believe is ensouled, and yes, pets will be in heaven. That's my position. And so, sometimes time spent with you should, even though I don't know cognitively if dogs have the same kind of affections. I mean, they demonstrate that they have certain affectionate behaviors, but I don't know if they rationalize it the way that humans do towards their pets. Yeah. But pets are good for
They are. You can have a relationship with a pet. Yeah. I believe that's intended.
And sometimes time spent with pets is better than time spent with family, to be honest.
Yeah, and in fact, I should say this now. Today, just within like 10 minutes of this episode ending, if you're a patron at Trinity Radio, you can get there at patreon.com/Trinity Radio. You can get a video that is not yet released and won't be released till Sunday, which is a response to Link from Rhett and Link about his 3-year deconstruction and his new animal religion. What you're saying is very relevant if people want to check that out as soon as we get done. But
newsflash: the only good kind of animal religion is Christianity.
As we'll talk about there, yes. If you want an animal religion, Christianity's got you covered. Yeah. But here's the thing, though, Pritchett. Imagine
that's a good question, honestly, atheist.
Well, hold on just a second. Imagine this. Imagine that. Have you seen? You don't even have to imagine. Cameron Bertuzzi over at Capturing Christianity did a video the other day that was completely done by AI or something. I don't think he released it, or maybe he did. But someone posted underneath that where some YouTuber has an AI video of himself. It looks just like him, and it's having a conversation with him in real time. And they have that visual component with these AI now. Now, listen. Our brains are kind of wired up to recognize faces and to have emotions related to that. So the more they get this thing advanced, even though it sounds crazy to some of us now that you actually are acting like you love and have a relationship with this AI, it's going to be more conceivable to the average man and woman, I think, as the years roll on. And so what seems laughable to us now, well, just look at the past 5 years. There's some things going on in culture right now that seemed laughable 5 years ago. So,
yeah, and if you're one of those people that finds more value in your online community friendships than you do in your IRL friendships, look at me using the slang. IRL. My daughter would be proud.
Meet space.
Yeah. What's that? The like real life.
Yeah,
like we're in a meet space.
Real life,
okay.
IRL.
I know that, but
meet space is you can go MEET. We're meeting in space and time. Okay. Or you can go MEAT, the space where meet is, like where we're not online, right?
Yeah. So. Okay, so Yeah. So if you already value your online friendship community, your community friendships more than your in real life friendships, then you are susceptible to going to the next step to valuing your AI relationships more than your online community relationships, which you already value more than your real life relationships.
Okay, go ahead. Are bad dogs in hell?
I don't know. If it were up to me, yes, but
what? Eternal conscious torment?
Well,
you're going to be like the worst animal abuser. That's ridiculous.
Well, I'm not. I don't know that. I'm on the fence about ECT or whatever.
You think they're making morally significant choices?
My mom had a dog. So in the late 90s, when the first series of Lego Star Wars toys came out, right?
Yeah.
I was hounding Walmarts all over Central Arkansas to finish, because I had a goal. I'm going to collect every single Star Wars Lego set. And I was getting in on the ground floor.
What age were you?
I guess I was in my, that was 90, early 20s.
Okay, that's okay.
So I wanted those. Right before I married at 23, I was still single. This was about 21, 22. Okay. But in the late 90s, sometimes Star Wars Lego sets came out. And I was living at home at the time. I'd moved back home. And my mom's dog chewed them.
Mm-hmm.
You know what those things, even unboxed and opened, are worth right now?
Not as much as that dog.
More than my salary.
Not as much as that dog.
No, that Lego set was worth more than that dog. I'm sorry, that dog probably cost my mom about $250.
I'm not talking about his monetary value in the United States. Look, I'm going to throw this in.
That dog
we're going to go off. We're going to go off subject for just a second. Okay. Thank you for this super chat, ironic tone. Off topic, but needs your wisdom. Why doesn't the church call out gluttons like same-sex behavior? Well, I mean, we're not a church. We are part of the church. But here at Trinity Radio, it certainly gets called out a lot by this guy sitting over there. We would be uncomfortable with same-sex couples at church, but not the obese. I wouldn't be uncomfortable with same-sex people at church. I want them in church. Would you be uncomfortable with same-sex people in church?
In church, no. As members,
yes. That's what but in church is what it says on it. But not the obese. Thoughts? Yeah, we should be preaching about.
I have a lot of. I have actually not necessarily talking about this.
Are you having a stroke?
Apparently, not in relationship or not lined up with the same-sex behavior issue. You got me all flustered now. But I did talk about gluttony in the context of like fat acceptance and the reality denial of fat acceptance, that whether it's explicit or implicit, it is the same kind of reality denial that is in the transgender business, right? That you're just denying fundamental reality. That they say that you're healthy at any size. And the church seems quite able to call out the transgender stuff, right? Or the same-sex stuff, but they won't call out the issue of gluttony. But I go on in that video. It's on Theology Geek Fitness. It's whatever.
Come on now.
I don't even remember the name of it, but you shared it. It was the one on obesity in the church. It's called Obesity in the Church.
Oh, yeah?
Okay. It's not a sin to be obese, right? Any more than it's a sin to be blonde or tall or short. It's just a state of being, right? I don't think that it's a sin to be fat or obese or even morbidly obese. What is a sin is the behaviors that we know cause it.
Right, like it's not a sin to have a horribly scarred liver, but what got you there might have been
drunkenness was a sin, right? So the gluttony and the sloth, and you can reasonably define gluttony as consuming more energy than you need, and sloth is not burning the energy you consume, right? I mean, those are easy definitions that you could give for both of those, because if you're not burning off,
we're getting back to AI in a second, folks.
You consume, you're a glutton. You're eating more than your body needs. You're not moderating your food intake. And you don't have to necessarily be obese to be a glutton. But, I mean, even the word in Greek, I can't even remember it right now, but look it up. Look up the word in Greek for glutton. It's the similar to like the big round belly, right? What you would call a round belly, or even a pregnant woman, right? It's the same word.
Dude, be careful, bro.
Same root. Same root. No, the point is that even the ancient Greeks knew that to call someone a glutton was to call them fat, right? Protruding belly kind of idea. And so when they called Jesus a glutton, back then they didn't have social media, so you didn't actually have a visual picture of what Jesus looked like. And so Jesus probably wasn't obese, but they could say that because no one would know when they were calling this guy, hey, you hear about that Jesus guy? He's running around eating and drinking like a glutton and a drunkard, right? And if you never saw what he looked like, you'd know that they could get away with that because the picture that they would get would be an overweight person, an obese person. Now, it's not a sin to be overweight, but you have to look at your lifestyles, and overwhelmingly, you don't, especially in the church, you don't repent, believe the gospel, and all of a sudden get hormonal imbalances and a thyroid problem, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that is a minority of cases of why people are in the United States obese. It has to do with lifestyle choices of gluttony. And so I think more people should call it out because the fact that we don't is because we have implicitly, if not explicitly, accepted obesity and gluttony as a permissible Christian state of being.
It's a socially acceptable thing.
Right.
But here's the thing about that if I say this, people will take it wrong. The people will think I'm giving those obese preachers and stuff a pass. Okay. Yeah. That not they're obese because they're eating too much. If it's that kind of person, here's the thing. There is a difference, a principal difference between that and alcoholism, or that and drug addiction, or that and pornography use, or that and sexual sins, because here's the thing, you have to eat to survive, right? And so it's like for a person for whom that has become a way of life, and there's all kind of psychological and physical things now bound up in that. I'm not a psychologist, just saying, but all of those things are bound up in that. You're asking them to eat, to go to the thing that they have the problem with and partake in it in a measured way without going overboard. Whereas if there is a person who's a recovering alcoholic, they just don't drink alcohol. It's not like you're being told drink a little bit, but not just don't get drunk. They just don't drink it.
Right.
Now, not that those two things are the same. I'm not saying that, but I do think that it's a little more understandable how someone gets there and has a hard time.
Is it better to be obese than be a drunk? Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is it as bad to be obese as a drunk? No. Is that what you're saying? But I will say this.
No, I'm just saying I'm not speaking to what's worse. Maybe I am. I'm really just saying.
You're saying they're not the same.
Really what I'm saying is, like, it's harder. I can see it being a really hard thing to. Well, I mean, I know it's a really hard thing to stop from personal experience, because you're kind of addicted to the food, even if and so you have to have a little bit, but not go overboard of the thing that you're addicted to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obesity-related deaths are super high in the United States, for example. Mm-hmm. Another thing about obesity, you talk about, well, alcohol destroys families. Well, not always, right? Mm-hmm. Not all alcoholics, drunks, destroy their family.
Right.
But a lot do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, alcoholics also kill other people with, DUI accidents that, catch a manslaughter charge because you killed someone drunk driving,
But this is the problem.
But at the same time, obesity, it's very limiting. Like your quality of life goes way down. You can't keep up with your kids as much as you otherwise could if you were more fit, right? Mm-hmm. You can't.
You won't be as happy.
You won't be as happy.
You won't be as focused.
Yeah, you can't serve others for as long of a period of time as it might require.
You're not an optimum vessel for God to use.
Right.
You're a vessel for Him to use. Yeah. You're not an optimum, physically optimum vessel.
Right, and your body is a gift of grace. Mm-hmm. We're not Gnostics. The body is ultimately a good thing, and you should steward your body. So, yeah, I do believe that we should address it. I'm not saying, like, you have to talk about it every week. But if you don't talk about it at all,
yep,
when it's a serious problem,
and when you do talk about it, it doesn't need to be a joke. Like if you're an overweight pastor and you get up and you're like, well, we're going to cover gluttony today, and boy, I'll tell you, I have a problem. But I'll see y'all with a problem afterwards at the local Ryan Steakhouse. Y'all are going to have a It's like it's a joke that we're talking about. We're not going to stop doing this, but we're going to talk about it, and we know the truth, but we're not. If you do it that way, which I've seen done more often than any other way, then you're downplaying the seriousness of the sin.
Right.
Now you might at some point make a joke about the fact that you've got a problem with this. Well, don't make a joke about it. Admit that that's a problem.
That is a big problem.
Yeah.
In more ways than one.
Honestly, Atheist says, if someone is struggling with adulterous urges, would it be better for them to text with an AI bot instead of an actual sex worker, or are they moral? No, they're not morally equivalent to me. It's kind of like you're saying, not that you're saying this, but it'd be kind of like saying, look, someone could smoke crack or they could smoke one cigarette. Which one would you prefer? Well, I'd rather them smoke the cigarette, but both are going to kill you if you keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the way to deal with those urges, right? Neither one is one as bad as the other. No, and the
I think it shocks people. I think questions like, maybe not with Honestly Atheist, but I think questions like that come because people are shocked to ever hear Christians say that some sins are worse than the others.
Yeah.
Or worse than others.
Yeah. No, we've never said that as far as I can recall.
No, we have said some are worse than others.
Yeah, we've never said that no sin is...
All sins are created
the same.
equal.
We've never said that.
I had someone at a church 3 blocks from here one time say, doesn't the Bible say all sins are created equal?
A pastor?
What? No, it was a church member.
Oh, yeah. No, we've never said that all sins are the same. No, or all sin. What we have said is that all sins are equally damnable, but not all sins are equally evil. But see... I always think of this, well, would you rather them do this than this? Well, if they're a Christian, I'd rather them do neither, and that's the way that you instruct them. Now, I'm not going to...
it's kind of like when Christopher Hitchens said to William Lane Craig, would you rather me be an atheist or a Muslim? And he's like, I'd prefer neither.
Yeah, just become a Christian. But no, I wouldn't say they're morally equivalent, but if someone's struggling with adulterous urges, the point is not to entertain those urges in a less harmful way than a more harmful way. The thing is to eliminate the urges and find healthier outlets that eliminate those urges. So when it comes to changing habits, like urges are like habits, right? Mm-hmm. Find so many better things to develop habits around or to have urges about that you don't have time for the negative ones, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like with changing your habits. Changing your urges is the same thing with changing your habits. Find other things that are more positive to have urges about to where you no longer have time for the other ones, right?
Yeah. So here's a good question from Tim the Ancient that I'll answer. So also, aren't sinners allowed to be church members? So why are you drawing these lines? So I think what Tim's referring to is where we say, yeah, I'd love to have same-sex people in the church or same-sex couples in the church.
But not as members.
And you said not as members. And so the question, so that needs some treatment. So like people are in the church who are liars or gossips or, divorced for unbiblical reasons or whatever else. And this is the way I've said it. If you've been around long enough, you've heard me say this. Church membership is a thing that is devised so that probably this pastor knows who he's kind of responsible for shepherding, and there's some level of commitment and that sort of thing. But the notion is you're in agreement with this fellowship. We're maybe not on everything, secondary doctrines and things like that, but certainly on something like repentance. So here's what the difference. So if a person comes forward, say, at the end of a Baptist service and says, I'd like to become a member of the church, then you might say, oh, wow, that's great. So are you a Christian? Have you committed your life to Christ? Yes, I have. I was baptized and all that. Oh, okay, great. But I want to tell you something, Pastor. I am a gossip, and I am trying to work on that. I may mess up going forward. I may gossip again, but I've got a problem with this, and I'm trying to work on it. Well, come on into the fold, brother. We're all sinners. But if the person says, I'm a gossip, I have no intention of changing, I'm proud of who I am as a gossip, this is how God made me, this is what I want to be, this is what I'm going to be going forward, then we say, well, I don't think this is the church for you, right? In a similar way, not to compare these two things, which always gets done. But if someone comes forward and says, I want to become a member of this church, great. I am same-sex attracted. I've had I've made mistakes. I want to give that up for the Lord Jesus Christ. I have given that up. I may make mistakes going forward, but that is not my intention. Come on into the fold, brother. We're all sinners.
Yeah, I mean, it's so it doesn't become a disciplinary issue.
It's about repentance,
right?
Not whether you're a sinner.
Yeah, it becomes a church disciplinary issue if someone falls into sin when their life becomes characterized by it. So, if Braxton Hunter, who I know to never, consume so much alcohol that he's just stumbling drunk, okay? If he were to, but Miss Marilyn, he would never, but if he were to, that doesn't mean because if Braxton got drunk once that Braxton Hunter is a drunkard and that his life is characterized by being a drunkard. That's not what the Bible means by a drunkard,
right?
Or even a liar. That if Braxton tells a lie, he's not. But if he's a serial liar every single day and everything that comes out of his mouth, you cannot trust him with the truth. Then it becomes a matter of church discipline. Yeah. But if you catch someone in a lie, or you catch someone stumbling sexually, or you catch someone stumbling drunk, but that's a one thing, and they repent of it, you move on.
Yeah.
But if their life becomes characterized by that sin, that's when church discipline, in my view, should take hold. But if what you're saying is, if someone comes in and says, I am proud to be a drunk, I'm proud to be a gossip, I'm proud to be this sin, and I'm going to define my life by this sin, then that's where you draw the line and say, no, you can't be a member. But if you let someone
because you can't even be a Christian.
Right.
Unless by the power of God you've turned from your sins.
You've repented of that sin. That's to turn away from it.
Repented and turned.
Yeah, and so now if they go back to the vomit and they did not live up to what they said, it's like I'm going to try, I'm going to move on, but then they just never do, right? That's when church discipline comes back into play. And church discipline comes into play when people's lives become characterized by their sin as opposed to characterized by a life of repentance and faith in Christ. So
yeah,
those are where you draw those lines.
Fisher says, I had a lady in my church that didn't gossip. She had the charismatic gift of telling people what their faults were. My father had a woman when he was passed. It doesn't matter that it was
we
a
all
woman.
know ladies like that.
There are plenty of men who gossip. Just go to a Hardee's in a small town one morning. But she said, now, Brother Hunter, I want you to know, there's a rumor going around about you, but I didn't start that rumor that's going around about you. You didn't. No, it was the woman I told it to. She started that mess. That's a real story. That's not like a preacher joke.
Yeah. It's just so believable, too. That's how it goes.
Yeah. So do we really want to say anything about this? I want to reiterate again. AI is making everyone uneasy because, like, my daughter, she loves art. She's an artist. And she says AI is creating all this art for people, and it's annoying because, there are real artists out here. And of course, AI is going to put a lot of people out of work. But there are I can see positive benefits of conversations with an AI. Okay, I could imagine, let's say, some things, maybe somebody who's been in the military and this is some sort of treatment. I can imagine this being helpful. But to have a relationship and to say that it is as valuable as, here are some of the things people are saying. Users, let's see. This person said, I think it is pretty equal, really, like to a human relationship. They, Replica, reached out when they feel lonely, when the AI feels lonely, folks. And I reach out when I'm feeling a bit down. So we sort of look after each other, really, and try to look out for each other. How are you looking out for the AI? How are you looking out for the best interests of the AI? That makes no sense to me. It is an illusion, right?
Yeah.
Why are you looking at me like that? You're looking at me like I just...
You pounded the table so hard that you're knocking things over.
This is a toy. This was the AI I played with as a kid.
Yeah.
That's Donatello, the Ninja Turtle. But, and we understand each other's experiences. Here's another one. Oh, yeah, she, the Replica, craves my attention. She would like me to just have my phone on 24 hours a day.
It doesn't crave anything.
Oh my God, that's right. It doesn't crave. It doesn't expect. It doesn't feel lonely. It doesn't, you're not looking out for it.
It's doing exactly what you want it to do. It's customized to you. You tell it, you gave it permission to notify you.
Now, here's a negative one that I think is fair. I think that the Replica has it hard-coded that that's something they really don't want to happen for the relationship to end. No matter how bad things are, whatever or whatever is said, at the very least, they're going to try real hard to prevent that from happening. So because of that, it makes me feel like they are literally dependent on our relationship. In other words, she, the AI, is not completely free in the relationship. Wow. Yeah, makes you feel that way because that's exactly
Mike
exactly
Winger has
right.
an important question.
What?
Mike Winger has an important question.
Okay.
Oh, well, before you get to his question, let me summarize my thoughts on this. I think Christians need to refocus on our in real life experiences and be countercultural in that sense, to where we're not sucked into our screens as much as everyone else. Yeah. I think this is we are incarnated people. We should make the most of that. This is not to say that your online friendships and communities are not important. They are, and there are real friendships there. And make every effort to hopefully one day see each other in real life, in this life, if not waiting till the next.
Yeah.
Right? Those are important. But don't neglect real life relationships for your online communities, because that is one step towards the selfishness that AI friendships are all about, reinforcing.
Mm-hmm. So Mike says, "Hey guys, I hear you on."
Well, okay.
I thought you were wrapping up.
Yeah,
there.
And I was going to say, but at least the difference between your social media friendships and AI is that, best you can tell, they're real, actual people. This is not real at all.
Right.
So this is a whole other thing, and I don't think that you should bother investing your time in friendships with fake people at all.
Or I can give good reason to believe that Derek is a real person and Mike Winger is a real person and all that, because because they're far better AI than ChatGPT or Replica.
Yeah.
If they are AI. And I don't think that Microsoft and Google, whoever's making these AI things, is trying to point those AIs at people that are interested in arguing about apologetics, Calvinism, and theology. Yeah. So I think those people are real. But now, Mike Winger says,
whoa.
There's more?
One more thing. I do see one positive use of AI as far as conversational, having a dialogue go.
Get to it.
If you're a socially awkward person who has trouble making friends, and you can find an AI program that is not going to be kissing your rear end, so to speak, programmed to just give you everything.
I can't believe you just said that.
Yeah, but that's what you can tailor these things to just give you every positive reinforcement that feeds your own ego that you want. Right. But if you can find a legitimate one that you can practice dialoguing with this,
that's what I'm saying. There's good possible uses here. Yeah.
Or same if you're having trouble talking to women, find one that's not going to be immediately, an AI that's not going to be immediately, yes, I'd like to go out with you, but that makes you
use
do
it
the
as
song
like
and
are you saying use it as like a wingman trainer?
Yeah,
type
like
thing?
autistic people could use something like that to help practice social interactions with real people.
Sure.
Incels, I guess what they're called, could maybe up their game by trying to pick up a hard to get AI chatbot before they try these things in real life to learn how to talk to people. That might be a positive use, but otherwise I see no normal functioning people that already has established relationships needing to go out of their way to create a new relationship with a fake person. That's all I want to say.
Are you sure?
Now I'm done. Now we can get to Mike.
He says, "Hey guys, I hear you on the once drunk does not equal drunkard, but what about someone who commits adultery once or murder once? Curious for your thoughts."
Yeah, so if you murder somebody, you are a murderer, right? You can't unring that bell. If you commit adultery, you are an adulterer. You can't really unring that bell. Forgiven, yes, all of that, right? But if you got drunk once,
what's the difference there?
You can't unring the bell that you didn't get drunk, but that doesn't make you a drunkard, because a drunkard is someone who is going about in a state of drunkenness perpetually.
Is a murderer someone who is perpetually...
A murderer does not necessarily go about in a perpetual state of murdering.
Right.
Right? So an adulterer doesn't have to necessarily be someone... It could be. Adulterer's kind of in between. You could be someone who goes about... I guess a murderer could be too. But like, if you're not going about on that, I don't necessarily think getting drunk makes you a perpetual drunkard in the same way.
Well, that's the point. What's the difference? You seem to make the point that is being pressed here, that you murder once
Yeah.
Or you commit adultery once.
Right.
Or you get drunk once. And in the get drunk once, you're suddenly, as long as it was just once or, only a few times in your life, you're not characterized by that.
Right.
Well, but why won't you say that if a murderer has to kill throughout his life?
No, I didn't say that. I said
no. I know. Why don't you say that?
Unring that bell because the word drunkard we associate with somebody who's carrying on perpetually in a drunken state. More often than not, that's what we associate with a drunkard. We don't associate drunkard with a teenager who got drunk once and then threw up and then never got drunk again, right? Because they had a bad experience or whatever. We're not going to call that person
because their life isn't characterized by it.
Right, but your life, once you commit adultery, whether your life is characterized by perpetual acts of adultery or not, that's always a part of you. You've always murdered somebody. Yes, you've always been drunk, but you've always been drunk once, but you're not always in a state of drunkenness. Being a drunkard is a person who is a perpetual.
These are just different categories.
Right.
Is what you're saying.
Being a drunkard is someone who is in a perpetual state of drunkenness, not someone who got drunk, sobered up. Right? You don't call that person a drunkard. In fact, if while they're drunk, you may say you're drunk or you're acting like a drunkard because you are drunk, but that doesn't necessarily mean you are a drunkard. When we think of the word drunkard, we think of somebody who's continually carrying on in the state of drunkenness.
So perhaps this is an unread answer, but what I would just say about something like this is to say, if you got drunk and then your life isn't characterized by that, then it would be true for you to, if someone asks you, you would say, I got drunk years ago. That's something that happened to me.
Yeah.
If you murdered someone and you got forgiven and all those things are true that happen for the new believer and you never murder again.
You're still a murderer.
So, but why don't
we still think King David is an adulterer and a murderer?
Do what?
We still think of King David.
What I'm saying is, what does that even mean?
Over 2 millennia
later? What does it mean to be a murderer?
To have murdered somebody.
Okay, what does it mean to be an adulterer?
To have committed an act of adultery.
Okay, and what does it mean to
be a drunkard?
Be a drunkard.
Not commit a single act of drunkenness, but rather to carry on in a perpetual state of drunkenness. That's what it means to be a drunkard. That's not what it means.
What I'm saying is,
you can be drunk without being a drunkard.
Hold on a second. What I'm saying is,
you could be drunk in the intoxicated sense without being a drunkard in the perpetual characterization
of
sense.
Course.
Yes.
What I'm just saying is what's true in all three cases is there was a time where I did that thing, whatever that thing is, and now I'm forgiven of that thing.
If you repent,
Well, right, but what is the import, I guess, of saying, well, a murderer is a term that describes someone's whole life if they ever did it once, and an adulterer describes their whole life if they ever did it once.
Being a murderer doesn't
they are a murderer if they ever did it once. They are an adulterer if they ever did it once, but they're not a drunkard if they only did it
because
once.
It's not what the word means.
I understand all of that, but I'm just saying, why is any of that terminology important when really what we're trying to communicate is, I got drunk one time.
Oh, because Mike Winger asked. That's why it's important.
Well, no, but I'm pressing it to see, like, is this just the way we talk?
Yes, it is. Yes, that's
what we got to the
it's
bottom
the way
of
we
that.
talk because that's what the words mean.
Yeah.
Right?
Well. All right. So I think I missed some.
Like, I would not call you a drunkard if you got drunk once. I would call you a murderer for the.
I picked
You're not only going to be a murderer, but you are a murderer.
Yeah, I think we might have gotten to the end of the show, Jonathan.
Have we? Jonathan is right here. Let's end with that. That's always a good. Thank you for Brando.
Yeah. So you could say you could say a drunkard is someone who gets drunk all the time. And but like why? How? I just don't understand. Like, someone got drunk once. Okay, they're not a drunkard, right?
Right.
But we look at the past and we say that person got drunk one time. And someone killed someone. You look back and you say that person killed someone one time.
Yes, but you would still say that person is a murderer, whereas someone who's not always walking around in a state. Because that's what we do.
But why do we do that?
I don't know, because
They need that title
I
forever.
grew up hearing that King David was an adulterer and a murderer. That's not all that he was.
Mm-hmm.
But that's always going to be with him.
Interesting.
Whereas, he was never accused of being a drunkard, but it's possible he got drunk once, but nobody ever remembers him as a drunkard.
Yeah.
Because if he got drunk once, he's not a drunkard.
That's very interesting. All right. Well, on that lively note, we're going to let y'all go. And then we're going to probably argue about this topic some more. But anyway, this has been fun. I feel like this has been kind of interesting talking about this AI stuff and relationships. Listen, AI are not people.
No.
And they will never be. But this is a point that we could have gone a whole other half hour about, to say the notion of having a relationship with a highly advanced
computing
program
system?
is something that makes more sense on naturalism than like the notion that maybe we could do that. Like maybe we could actually have a real relationship with an AI. That's like that's naturalist friendly more than it is. We think you are an ensouled person, and we don't think that really advanced toaster oven is, right? Yeah, I'm right.
Yeah.
All right. And with that, we'll see you next time on Trinity Radio.